Welcome to a race around the circuit Spa-Francorchamps. This is a mix of GT2 and GT3 cars. I don't know the difference between them, but I do know that I get a rather poor launch to start this race, and I also know that this will be a thriller of a race to watch, one which you will not regret. It's going to be 7 laps. It's not infinite as it says in the top left. That's actually a lie. It's 7 laps of pure racing, as we have people from all around the world here, which could lead to some connection issues as potentially the reason for that initial crash there. Me and Pulpito, the Spaniard, have to swerve a little bit to avoid collisions, and that gives Rudy, I believe, the German, and Kevin, the Assetto Corsa native, the ability to pass us. And Kevin immediately goes up the inside of Pulpito, gives him a little tap on the behind, and that leads to Kevin nearly taking us out. We'll have a way better look here, as we definitely see the little clash there on the transparent radar in the middle of your screen. Taps the backside of Kevin, and we're getting a good hood cam as Kevin very nearly takes me out. That would have definitely ruined my race, because again, pardon that if you hear that, it's aggressively thunderstorming outside. You can see here, I go up the inside of Pulpito with the little lockup, but I do get the move done. And unfortunately for me, there's this great law known as the law of the conservation of greatness, and I immediately bin it on the very next corner, the very next turn. Luckily for me, there have been some major accidents behind, as you can see with the initial P1 and P2 collision, the very second, third turn. So I have some breathing room, but of course, whenever you spin out the car, you overheat the tires, you get some dirt on the tires, and the car becomes a little unpredictable. So you could have just seen through that turn, a bit wide, not ideal, the line through it. And here, I'm not really sure which gears to use, where the grip is in the car. So I'm just trying to coast along in a way that is not compromising to my position in the race. And I might be getting the hang of it as I get a really nice exit out of this corner. You know, this is a very important section of the track. It should be flat out. Gains you a lot of speed if you get a good exit out of that corner. And frankly, it might be one of my favorite parts of the track. It's just a nice moment where you can just focus on your steering inputs. You could just put your gas to the metal, and all leading to this final corner that I, royally screw up. Again, I'll blame the tires from an accident that happened like 30 seconds ago, as I slide out of that corner and I go super deep off a lockup. But with time, we'll figure it out. We'll learn. Coming into this corner, braking right after the 100 mark, the 100 border on the left, and nice steady hit the apex, power on the outside, on the exit, and going into this turn. Again, earlier in the lap, I kind of screwed up the turn last time, so there is this fear where you kind of don't have as much grip as you might want on the way up in the GT2 car, maybe GT3. I'm not really sure the specifications of it all. I just picked the Ferrari and I went for a race. But I do get some pretty good speed here, I believe, going all the way up to 160, 162. It's fine, You just don't want to get track limits on that corner, and you don't want to slow down so badly that someone will easily pass you. Coming into this corner, I can see on the map P1 and P2 are very close to each other up ahead, and that's always good for me, because if they're battling, that means I can catch up. And I see P4 is behind me, in my rear view mirror and also on the map as I nail this corner, and you can see the tragic skid marks of my accident during lap 1 on the road still. A constant reminder to everyone, including myself, as to what can occur during that corner if you're not patient enough. As you can see in this corner, I was relatively flat out through it. We could have used more of the track, but definitely way better than lap 1. Then again, this corner wasn't as good as lap 1. So, that's part of, to me, it's the magic of racing. It's what attracts me the most to it. It's a strong, well, obviously it's a competition against the people who are sharing the track with you. But more than anything, it's a competition with yourself every single lap. You can use a baseline of the lap prior, you can use a baseline of your best lap ever, you can always improve. And if there's ever a mistake in your lap time, there's no one else to blame but yourself. You probably didn't have the, oh, here we go, is P2 narrowly, I narrowly avoided a collision from P2 as I don't know if he was trying to defend on that, but he very clearly spun out in that fast turning section of the track. And I'm up into P2 actually now for the first time. So now P3 and P4 will have to battle it out to catch up to me as I worry about catching up to P1. We'll get back on track with the psychology of driving or of racing, in which there is this external pressure from the people around you of cars that you might have to avoid, or cars behind you that might be pressuring you into potentially pushing it a little bit too far in the limit and you lose control of the vehicle. But again, I just am so enthralled by this sport, and that there's no one else to blame but yourself, and there's always room for improvement. You know, maybe you can take that bit of life advice and apply it elsewhere in any area of life, but specifically with motorsports, it's a high highs, low lows, because to have the best lap, you have to be pushing the car to its absolute limit, and not only the car to its absolute limit, yourself to its absolute limit. Like how well do you understand this track? How well do you understand this car? How well do you understand the conditions of the track? And infinitely more variables. But then again, it can be very therapeutic, because when you're thinking about all these things, there aren't many other things to think about. If you do, you're probably going to be distracted, and you might lead to a lockup like this fella up in front of us, Fame, in the McLaren. This is a back marker. This person is being lapped by P1 in front of us, Rudy, the German, and myself, as Fame just turns left, and he's supposed to go straight, crashes into a barrier. Unlucky, really. But I'm definitely reeling in Rudy, as his name tag is now visible for the first time in a while, and I get a pretty good exit out of this section. So does he, because his name tag is actually fading away. But you see, there's actually a massive collision, and let me introduce you to WalkThePlug. You saw him, he was the guy on the left, and he started the race from the pit lane, and I just need to show you the way he exits this pit lane, because it tells you all you need to know about the gentleman, in which that this is how he overtakes someone. This is just very important context for why he might have been causing a lot of havoc during that long straight for us, the smoke screen that you might have seen. As you see here, he locks up and goes way deep into the corner and just never stops turning. So you might think, okay, well then keep turning. If you want to turn so much, you just turn a little bit more, 360, and you keep going. But instead, he messes up the gears a little bit and starts driving the wrong way. Intentional or accidental? We don't know. The game says no. So they sent him to the beginning. Here he locks up massively, goes over 2 speed bumps, rallies a little bit through the grass, and it loses control a little bit. And I guess he's now upset. This is the second time he messes up in this corner. This is the same race as I'm doing the course. On the bottom left, you can see that's my minimap, not his. He's actually doing this predatory behavior where he misses the Russian and kills J Boogie, I believe is the name. Flavio, apologies, the Brazilian that started in P2 actually swerves through both of them, and you see there's this big drama going on between the two of them. But let's fast forward to our point in the track where Flex the kid, I forget his name, is preparing to cause destruction. That approach was too difficult, so instead he just swerves in front of somebody, causes this massive smoke screen for us, and leads to a little bit of foreshadowing. Rudy taps that driver and I drive on through, but there will be foreshadowing with him. There's a reason we went into so much depth into his history. I don't know if you noticed, but there was a lap timer. A beautiful move up the inside from myself. I forgot about that one. I was taking advantage that he tapped that car that Flex the Kid or whatever his name was actually hit. So I'm actually in P1 starting lap 4, of 7, so I only have to do this for about 3 more laps. I lock up a little bit, go a little deep into the corner, but hopefully I can nail the second and third turn and we'll be fine. But there is a lot of foreshadowing to be had with Flex the Kid, in which that he will potentially be my guardian angel of this race. He already kind of secured me a P1 with that little smoke screen and additional collision to Rudy's car. Here Rudy gets a better exit out of that corner, but it's maybe too much downforce. Maybe the Ferrari's just faster on a straight line. It's not enough to pass me on that straight, so he's going to be stuck behind me for at least a little bit longer as I slide my way through. And now the race becomes avoid the back markers as well as avoid the guy behind you. You know, becomes increasingly difficult when there's people like Rich the Kid. But it's easy when there's people like that fella who just drives off the track and gives you all the room in the world. So there's push and pull in this sport. Again, there's the pressures never go away of the track, of the car, of the speed, of the people behind you, but the back markers are potentially the scariest part of racing, especially in these online lobbies. This isn't sanctioned in any way. There's no consequences if you drive in front of me and kill me. But you know, sportsmanship, pass it on. You wanna ensure a good race. So people who might have started in P1 and P2, such as Flavio that we saw earlier in the incident, narrowly avoiding 2. He started P2. To start P2, you have to qualify, you know, the second best in the lobby. So those people typically understand the difficulties of driving really quickly and are less likely to outright take you out if they are getting lapped. You know, they might have had an incident that might have ruined their race, but most of those individuals aren't looking to obliterate others, you know. Here again, I lock up a little bit going into that corner, but I see that Flavio does as well. Is that his name? P2 goes as well. We're going to fast forward through lap 5. I get a little bit of a lead to lap 2, but if you can see on the minimap in the bottom left, there's a back marker in front of me. And you know, your heart starts beating a little bit faster whenever you see one of these fellas, and it's WalkThePlug. It's not Flex the Kid or whatever I was saying. WalkThePlug. He taps me on the backside, but you know, I don't react. My car doesn't react perhaps the way he wanted to, and if you can see in the rear view mirror, he gets maybe upset. I do a little slide through that corner thinking, oh no, I wasted time, but I see someone's going onto the sand and the other one's going slowly, so we'll see it from his perspective. He's 45 minutes into his first lap. He's yet to complete a lap. You can see me coming up in his rearview mirror. I go up his inside. Perhaps he wanted to close it off. He failed to. And then P2 tries to pass him, and he is not a fan of doing that. He wants to actually defend aggressively. 2 little taps from P2 sends him into the sand, and P2 goes on his way. Oh, it's actually Rudy, not Flavio. Okay, so Rudy the German's in P2. As I continue onwards, you see the P2 in the rear view mirror just disappearing ever so slightly. So, you know, again, the foreshadowing is true. I forget his name again, but Rich Flex the Kid? No, whatever his name is, he's kind of guaranteeing that I win this race. You might even think, this is your friend. This is someone that you know that is intentionally doing this to secure your victory. But I will assure you, this is an online stranger. Perhaps he likes the color of my car. Perhaps he likes the Ferrari. Perhaps he likes my name. You know, there's a lot of variables in this motorsport, and one of them is, do the back markers like you? As here, I'm approaching Flavio, my favorite name apparently, as I keep saying it. See, he lets me pass as well. He's going rather slow on a straight, but doesn't get in the way. He's off the racing line. It's all you can ask for from a back marker, really. As we are 30 seconds into lap 6 of 7, not 6 of infinity, as it might say in the corner. That's just a replay bug. I feel like I'm really getting the hang of this corner. I'm going up to 163 miles per hour as I approach Fame, who is going over the bumps, then coming back onto the racing line, and then going into the sand. You know, you never really know what the back markers are doing, but I find that the secret to not getting on their bad side is perhaps give them give them a little bit of room. You know, they're probably not expecting people to be, or maybe they're feeling the pressure of having someone so close to them, so they're more likely to, you know, spin off or something. So you give the backmarker some room, you give the backmarker some space, you wait for them to make a mistake, and then you go on by. You know, again, another philosophy that you can apply to not only backmarkers but actual racers is like, go a little bit onto the grass there, a little distraction, mental lapse. Perhaps I was looking in the rear view, perhaps I was thinking about a snack that I could have after this race. But again, I should mention that as the time to the end of the race gets closer, your heart rate tends to increase, or at least mine does, and you really start feeling the nerves of all those pressures that if you mess this up, it's your fault. Like you have two separate incidents of a backmarker killing your competition and not you, so how are you going to lose this race? You know, little things as I approach another backmarker, and every backmarker, waifu, the Ukrainian, is always a challenge as I get really close to him, but I do not touch him, and I feel like that's like a truce between us, in which I'm saying, I'm not gonna hit you, maybe you don't hit me as I go on by. Again, I give him space here, I see what he does, he goes very wide, so I hit the apex of the corner and I'm on my way. You know, just applying the same strategy of give them room, let them make a mistake, and then drive on by. As I'm in lap 7, the last time I'll have to do any of these turns, the tires are the most worn, the track is probably the most grippy, the nerves are definitely the highest, the pressure is most definitely the highest. Let's see, what else might be occurring during this lap? Backmarkers are definitely present, as I am in a backmarker sandwich as Flavio parks his car on the racing line right there. You know, not something you'd expect from a P2 qualifier. I'd expect him to be more aware of the speed that's expected of that part of the track. But, you know, not the end of the world, because the people behind me will have to pass those backmarkers as well. In my rear view, I believe I see a new car, which isn't a backmarker and isn't the German. So perhaps that is the new P2. I'm unaware. Worrying about details like that in the race, just it's a recipe for disaster, really. But I do see that they are going rather fast, and there's not much time left in this course, or in this track, so I go really conservative to there, dropping to second gear for the first time in the race, I believe. And you know, just nerves are at a max. The car's getting bigger in my rear view, and I mess up this corner, which is perhaps the worst part to mess up on the whole track, because this is of course the flat out section in which if you have a good launch, you're gonna have a good run. And he goes side by side, but WalkThePlug, my guardian angel, is in front of me, and he completely kills him. He swerves out of my way. Let's get a perspective from him in the rear view. You see P1 and P2 battling it out on the final straight of lap 7, and he just kills P2. Would you say it's intentional? Would you say it's an accident? This is the perspective from P3. Smokescreen is ensued. He tries to get a P2. And WalkThePlug comes in and guarantees he's also not getting a good run at me to end the race. This is his perspective from P2. Look at his launch out of this corner. It's just straight flat out. He never lifts. He has a great drive. Honestly, he might have beat me, and well deserved, because I kind of messed up that very last corner. But WalkThePlug just closes the door on him and obliterates him, ruins his race. WalkThePlug then obliterates that guy's race, so at least he did guarantee this guy gets a P2, you know. Maybe WalkThePlug was saying, you're not going to get P1, but I'll let you get P2. And at this point, I break way earlier than I have any time before. I just have to finish this very last turn, get past the line, and I get my first race win around Spa. A little sour taste, perhaps, to most, but that's not going to stop me from celebrating. I'll do my little burnouts at the end of this straight. And I'll say unlucky to P2 and P3. I'm not going to say thank you to WalkThePlug, because, you know, that might tip people off that we might be friends or something, which we are not. I see Rudy there disappearing, and I spin out until I run out of gas here. Have my fun, sponsored by UPS. Yeah, thank you for watching this race. If you watched all the way through, I hope you were entertained. I hope you learned a little bit about psychology of racing, of motorsports, and I hope you enjoyed hearing these swell cars drive around Spa. Wonderful circuit, perhaps my favorite. Thank you.